welcome in on the Wednesday show here on the Grueling Truth, the NASCAR show, where we come to you Sunday as Joe doesn't get sick, typically.
Yeah.
So glad that you're here. We had a great show on Sunday evening where a lot of you guys tuned in and things we had no idea what was going on. Well, we have a little bit more clarity, so we'll recap, but before we do that, we want to let you know that the Grueling Truth and this show is brought to you by betting.net. Betting.net, an online casino or sportsbook that's right for you. I'm joined today with two of my best friends, one from California and the other one from right down the road. Joe, how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing well, Ryan. I'm over this Sunday's tragic ending to that race, and I've recouped a lot of emotion on Sunday, but I think I'm doing good now. I'm really trying to move forward. I'm grieving and coping, and it's a process. So I think I'm doing well. Steve?
I'm doing fine. I'm good. One clarity, I'm not from California. I happen to be stuck living in California. It's a beautiful state, but it's a mess. And I'm only out here because my son is in the movie business and my wife is attached to my son. And my son is now in the accounting department at Netflix. Oh my God. That is scary.
I heard
Tell them
Steve,
I canceled when they raised my rates.
Steve, I
Yeah.
actually heard you had business in the 6th Street Bridge. How is that going?
The 6th Street Bridge is a hoot. I have been on that bridge. I've got a Hemi engine in my Ram pickup truck, so I have done a burnout on the 6th Street Bridge. Not a big one because I got to pay for my tires. I'm not one of the members of Hendrick Motorsports, but it's a mess. They're gonna have to shut that bridge down. They shut it down again today. I don't know what they're doing with it. I don't know.
I saw him at bridge on a video that I watched at work today. So that is one hell of an establishment for $600 million. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and jump in.
It's California, Ryan. It's California.
California. So let's go ahead and get into a brief recap of what happened on Sunday. Is because we spent over 45 minutes on it Sunday. So if you want to watch that episode, we do have. Really, what's going to happen now compared to what we have Sunday is we have a little bit of clarity. So Chase Elliott and the 11 and 18 car were both disqualified after inspection showed that they had 5-inch tape, which measured in 1/100th by 2,000 by that much on their vehicle, and NASCAR deemed that to be illegal. JGR decided that they were not going to appeal the penalties, so both of those cars finished next. My driver finished in last for that race. But all that being said, and Steve, I'll start with you. Do you feel that the penalty is justified for the crime committed?
Well, as a sportsman and an athlete, no. But as clarity in the rule book, yes. I mean, it says clearly any alterations done to single source products will result in a post-race, if caught in post-race, will result in a disqualification. I mean, it's black and white. It's not gray. And it doesn't say how bad the infraction has to be. It just says if there's an infraction, that's the end of it. Now, we go back to Keselowski's deal. Keselowski's problem wasn't caught until the car went to R&D, and they found it later. And NASCAR has been clear about that and saying at that point we start taking away drivers' points and owners' points and money. But if we catch it in the post-race inspection, it is an immediate disqualification. It is black and white. So I don't like it. I'm a Chase Elliott neat, good geek. I'm not happy about it. I don't feel like it's a win for Chase Elliott or Hendrick. I don't feel like it's a loss for JGR. It's the rules are black and white. So, yes, I think the ends, the means justify the ends. So, yes, I'm done with it. Like JGR is, I'm over and done with it. Let's move on to Michael McDowell.
Well, I'm going to get Joe, based on what we know now that it was a piece of possible Scotch tape from.
It's not important. That's not important.
Well, I'm talking to Joe now. Steve, you had your chance. Joe, do you believe that crime for what was found on both the 11 and 18?
So I think Sunday, I think we were a little hot about it. And now that we've had a couple of days to look at what has happened, and you take the big picture and everything that surrounds it, where would tape potentially put on a car under a wrap, to serve some sort of purpose of downforce. I still don't understand if they were covering up a vent or what that tape was actually covering up or how it was helping. I just don't understand that. But I do understand that it was done intentionally with the idea that it was going to help the car with downforce and give some sort of advantage. And knowing that, I would say that that cheating is cheating if it's against the rules. And it sounds like the teams knew what they were doing, and they did it intentionally. So I do want to say this. I don't believe Denny Hamlin or Kyle Busch had any idea that was on the car. I don't believe that. I'm not calling Denny Hamlin or Kyle Busch a cheater by any means, but somebody within that organization that helps up those cars is. And at the end of the day, I do think that the punishment of being disqualified does fit at this point. In my humble opinion, I don't like it. I don't like it for Denny Hamlin. I don't like it for Kyle Busch. I think that they are just as disgruntled as everybody else. I think Denny Hamlin hates that he has been attached to this. I think Kyle Busch probably hates he's been attached to this. And they probably, they went out there to win a race and they raced hard and they got themselves into a position without knowing that maybe they had a slight advantage, which I really don't know what advantage that they had. But at the end of the day, if your team cheats, even if you don't know about it, you're still a guilty party, guilty by association. And I think at the end of the day, after what we saw with McDowell this week, they might want to be counting their lucky stars that it was just a disqualification. So, yes, I do think the punishment fits the crime.
Okay. Now, moving on to something a little bit different.
Well, wait, Ryan. What's your opinion, Ryan?
What's
your
there.
opinion on it?
I'll get there. Let me host. I'll get there. What I understand about this is that the tape was not covering a vent. It was covering, but nonetheless, these cars both passed inspection and really done, especially for aero, because the reason or the process is you have 20-something cameras, and then each car is sent to a computer-aided design where it's superimposed fits exactly the model that's supposed to fit. So both of these cars, aerodynamics, you're talking you have to change the shape of something. Okay, force on a vehicle, you're having to change the shape unless you're adding something that creates, like the grill. Well, tape doesn't create a hole, and it wasn't placed over top of a grill. So does NASCAR's pre-race inspection process, because if this can get through pre-race type of incidents because it fits within the normalcy of what NASCAR, then how can you say that it's adding something beneficial because it never holes within the frame of the vehicle?
All right, now can I address this? Please, let me address this. All right, number one is NASCAR made it very clear. Pre-race inspection is done to check the safety of the cars. They do not tear a car apart in pre-race inspection. They come in and make sure that the lug nuts are on tight, the bolts are done down right, and everything's done so that the integrity, the safety of that vehicle going out on the track with 36 other people. They don't inspect the car and tear it apart. Post-race inspection, they tear it apart. They found the tape when they peeled back decals that were put over the tape. They don't tear the car apart pre-race because M&M's would be shittier than hell if we started ripping the M&M's logo or the FedEx logo off of one of their cars and found the tape. The tape, none of the three of us are engineers. Okay, so we don't have any really idea. None of us have sat in a wind tunnel when they're doing aerodynamic testing. We're not doing that. We're not involved in that process. They could look at it and say, this coefficient, if I can change this coefficient and cover this little split between where my lower fascia on my truck goes and my upper grill goes, I might be able to create a block a hole that wind can get into and create more downforce on a car. Now, my truck has been over 100 miles an hour a couple of times on the 5 freeway or the 405 freeway, but in large part, it doesn't go that fast, so it doesn't affect my truck. These guys going 160 to 180 miles an hour, that aerodynamic covering that slat, whatever they're covering, that gap there that's in between your lower fascia and your upper fascia, let's just put a piece of tape there. That's less air, less room for air to get in and lift the car, thus letting the lower spoiler do its job and create more downforce on the car. So this is not an innocent thing. This is well thought out by engineers. The $10 question is, does anybody ask Denny Hamlin or Kyle Busch if they knew this was done to their cars? I'd like to hear somebody just ask them that question. I'm sure the answer is no, but this is just engineers tinkering and toying, which is for so long Bill France and Bill France Jr. tried to keep engineers out of the sport. This is F1 shit now, because now you're sitting here. If I just melt this little fifth wing on the right side of the spoiler on the front of my Mercedes AMG car, I might pick up 2 or 3 or 4 horsepower, which gives me more horsepower going down the straightaway. That's how close this stuff is. So, all right.
But
I blew up on that.
You're talking about an adjustment structure of the vehicle that passed within pre-race inspection due to computer-aided design program, and whenever you superimpose it to the model that they allow to fit all the criteria.
Right.
So there's nothing there that's changing that isn't already allowed by NASCAR.
There was tape covering a part of the car. It just was hidden. It's like if I can paint over it or I can cover it with a decal, but it's still there.
But it still was allowed to go through the requirements
because
that NASCAR allows to have. Up or
pre-race
not,
inspection
Steve,
is checking
whenever
the safety of the car. They don't check the aero on the car at pre-race.
Yes, they do. They check to see if they check to see if the car is the exact same model. If it ends up in the blue, then it shows that area is a little bit different. It's a gray area now. 5.
You're talking about red, a piece of tape.
Am I allowed to talk, Steve? You just talked for 10 minutes. They allow these to program.
You want me off the air? You want me to drop off?
You can do whatever you want.
Because you're not making sense.
I am making sense.
The fact of the matter is, it's a exactly. 1/12. It's a 1/12 piece, 1/12,000th a piece of tape. It's not going to show up on any laser measurement. It's going to show up when they peel it back and say, "Why is this hole plugged?" Now, go ahead, ramble on.
There's not a whole. You can't say ramble on whenever we've been on the air for 14 minutes and you've taken. There's no rambling to be done.
Ryan, I'm making sense.
No, I'm trying to tell people how the pre-race was safety.
You're trying to defend.
You're talking about
using. What you're trying to do.
No, I'm trying to tell you what exactly happens so I can get my points out. Joe, he hasn't interrupted you yet. Let's go ahead and get your opinion.
Well, I think my opinion is I think that it was. I agree with you, Ryan, and I understand what you're saying. That the cars. There are pictures of the cars taken from I don't know how many different angles, and those are superimposed onto a perfect model of each vehicle, and I get that. And they look at that and say, okay, this car right here is within the specs that we're going to allow it to be. And it has to be within so many hundredths of the perfect model. And I get that. And that's why Denny Hamlin, I think failed pre-qualifying inspection twice. And I understand that. Now, I don't understand that how many millimeters thick is a piece of tape. And I can understand that is not something you're allowed to do. And if it's not a gray area, and you did it. And I do believe, and I sent you this question, Ryan, earlier in the week, or maybe I sent it to both of you. I wonder how many foot-pounds of downforce that tape would give you as opposed to not having that tape on there. And I don't know that we'll have an answer to that. So where I stand right now is if this was a clear violation, which it looks like what happened with the team, and JGR saying we're not going to appeal it, we're not doing anything, we're done with it, moving forward, it tells me that they had culpable intent to do this and try to alter or try to get an advantage. To me, that somebody cheated, and I think that does fit the crime. However, I understand what you're saying. If you're going to have a pre-race inspection and you have this computer program that tells you, hey, this car is within the specs, but then you're telling me that a 2x5-inch piece of tape that's, however,
12 thousandths of an inch thick.
12 thousandths of an inch thick can give you that much of an advantage. I understand your issue, and I think that is the issue that you're trying to get apart or trying to portray here is how does that piece of tape give you that much an advantage after you did a pre-race inspection and you said the cars were within specs. So I understand what you're saying.
Joe,
Right.
Joe, let me ask you a question. Joe.
Even though I wasn't allowed to talk, so that's good.
Right now. Joe, do you understand that when the Eagle landed on the moon, okay, with Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong in it, and I've had lunch with Neil Armstrong, and I've sat and partied and drank with Buzz Aldrin. Now that's a different story. That parts of that thing were put together with just tin foil. That when it landed, the pressurization inside and outside, a piece of tin foil was all that was separating them from atmosphere and no atmosphere. And so don't tell me about 12 1,000. It plugged a hole. Have you ever used a piece of duct tape?
Well,
duct tape is about 12 1,000ths of it. I put duct tape on something, it sticks for life. Right now, Ryan wants to put duct tape on my mouth. I'm sure he does. The size of the tape doesn't matter. It's what the tape did on the car.
No, I understand
the
that.
Size of the tape does parameters of what's allowed in NASCAR, and if NASCAR says that there's no shape difference to what we do with our technology on our $250,000 cars, then you can argue that to it in certain areas, as long as it's not covering up the grill, because we know that's an illegal cover up, and this is a new vehicle. I just don't understand why, because I'm sure when they developed this car, there wasn't a thought process that maybe an engineer would cover this part up. I think it deserves clarity why they thought this was the case and how much of an advantage it allowed. Inspection says that this car is no different or is legal compared to all the other cars because we spent tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on, and there is no advantage when you compare to another car. So if you're allowed that type of, and how evidently you can't, they don't want anything done to these cars, and that's never had ever.
Ryan, that's in the rule book. No alterations done to any single source products. period. Suspension or result will be disqualification from the race. That's in the goddamn rule book.
Okay.
Over and
That's
done
not.
with. That's what JGR came out
That's an
and read and said.
That's alteration to a single source part.
Unapproved.
Which they're
Putting
talking.
decals is approved. Putting tape onto the decal is not approved. It's disqualification. Go ahead.
So
Joe.
I don't understand what the contention here is. I mean, this is exactly what's going on.
We're just having fun. I love Ryan. Crap, I don't think he's a great guy.
Well, it's right now, obviously everybody has a little bit difference of opinion. I mean, I'm at the point, like I said, where, I agree if a rule was broken, a rule was broken. But that Ryan actually is bringing up a very valid point that and I understand it's a piece of tape and it's a violation of the rules, but at the beginning of the race, if you're going to take, hundreds of thousands, $1 million worth of software and tell me that all these cars are exactly the same and within the limit, maybe pre-race inspection needs to be better. Maybe this should have been caught in pre-race inspection.
Maybe
I think we
should outlaw bear bond if we're going to not have anything that can be on the car. I mean, I could just slap some bear bond if a vehicle due to a wreck. Why not disallow bear bond? Why not if you run as is and you're not allowed to make any alteration to it?
Because Ryan, there are rules
what's the
in
difference
the book.
there?
There are rules in the book that say. I heard your question. The bear bond. If there are rules in the book that says if your car is damaged, you can repair with bear bond. It says you can do that. It says, and you have to maintain high standards. I mean, I think there was a race one time I remember where somebody's car got beat to shit in a race, and it looked like crap. It was nothing but bear bond or 200-mile-an-hour tape, whatever you want to call it. But it failed height inspection by 1/100th of an inch, and it was disqualified, or it was penalized or whatever. So there are rules that say bear bond is an attachable thing once an accident has occurred on the track to repair your car quick enough to get it back out. Those rules are in the book. There is no rule that says you can tape up things that we say you can't tape and then cover it up with a decal and hide it. So now what we have to do to get your solution done is we need to now say, bring your car to pre-race inspection with no decal on it, and we will check your car. And then you can take it back to your garage and stick your damn decal on the car and screw the damn sponsors that are trying to make this sport continue to go. Well, sure it is. That's the only
passes pre-race inspection.
Who's going to
because
find
you're using
12,
technology? Then who's going to find it?
Who's going to find 12 1,000th of a skin layer bump out? Could be air in the damn decal for all you know. Then they tear it apart and they find it and say, nope, that's blatant. That's tape put there for a reason.
So if I ask somebody and I determine that is damage, I can throw some tape on it. But, That makes
Don't you remember the time when guys would come in and change the right rear tire and the damn pit tire changer would kick the damn quarter panel in because it changed the aero on the car? NASCAR caught up with that and said you can no longer affect the quarter panels of the car, or you can't stick your knee into the sidebar of the car. They made a rule about that because they finally caught people from doing that.
I think what we need to look at, I think if it was just Denny Hamlin's car or Kyle Busch's car, that this was an issue with, I think that, we might be able to sit here and make an argument that, okay, this may have been a mistake and move on. I think what gets some people caught up in this situation is both of these cars had this tape in the same place doing the same thing. And they're on the same team. So
and we didn't even check the other two cars that from Gibbs sent home.
And I don't, and right now I don't think that's an issue. If I was I am a bet man, but if I was going to place a bet on whether or not that those other two cars had tape on it, I would say they did. But Right now, I don't think. I mean, I think that we have beat this horse to death. I don't know, Ryan, you got anything else to add before you want to move on, or Steve? But I mean, it is what it is at this point. JGR's moved on. Denny Hamlin's moved on. Kyle Busch moved on. I think we need to move on.
Let's hope that people get black flag next time a hot dog wrapper gets stuck on their grill. That being said, we're going to go on to be out for the Indy race due to the fact that he is not recovered from his. Front Row Motorsports was issued an L2 penalty for modification of a single source part, which is 100. The crew chief will be suspended for 4 races, and he is also fined $100,000 in playoffs away. Front Row Motorsports has said that they will appeal that penalty. 43 car, which is Eric Jones and Ty Dillon, were each handed an L1 penalty, which is a 35 point for inappropriate adjustments to their rocker box assemblies. So then were suspended or disqualified from their races, but dealt much heftier fines in the racing throughout their season. The rest is pretty much just rumors. Noah Gragson looks like 42 car. Eric Jones and the 43 car full going to have a multi-year sponsorship. And there are 2 sources this week that one from the from Freddie Kitchens on Door Bumper Clear that they track at Pocono and think that the only reason he was there look and talk to Kyle Busch. So that being the news, is there anything particular that you'd like to talk about?
Well, I want to point out, I mean, that's a pretty serious week with penalties hand down. And I don't know if that was just I don't know if R&D, and I don't know if NASCAR was just being extra strict this week based on the disqualifications. They were just nailing everybody. But, you know, just based on the penalties that come out with McDowell and this week, and I mean, they hammered him, obviously, and his crew chief. I think really the alteration to these cars is beginning to run rampant. And based on what we saw this week, based on Keselowski, based on McDowell, and the other penalties, I think people are. I think it's the Wild West with these cars right now, and I think people are doing things to their cars every week that just aren't being caught right now, in my opinion. And I think we're taking this one penalty at a time, and NASCAR going, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. So, which I'm sure all the teams know what they're doing, and they're doing it on purpose. You know, and I think maybe that's why NASCAR at the beginning of the season came out and said, look, we're pretty much going to have a zero tolerance with penalties and alterations to single source parts and cars this year because, you know, we have at least an understanding of what can be altered and where your advantages can be. And I think teams all season have been doing what they can to get away with things. And I think some teams just haven't been caught yet. So that's really the only thing as far as the news and penalties that really stand out to me.
2 things. If a hot dog wrapper gets stuck on a grill, as long as it's a Martinsville hot dog, I'm fine with that. Because that means somebody ate a Martinsville hot dog, which are outstanding. Secondly, what's the Wild Wild West? NASCAR stepped up this week and said, guess what, boys? There's a new sheriff in town. And that new sheriff is going to penalize your ass. I think there's desperation on some of these teams. You look at the drivers that were penalized. They're guys desperate to try and get in the playoffs. McDowell wants in. All right. So they're going to kind of go for it. Hamlin and I don't understand Hamlin, but I don't think that Hamlin and Busch had any idea what was going on to their cars. But I think TRD doesn't like Chevy kicking their ass week in and week out with the way Elliott's running rampant right now. Now, that could end on any given week, and it will. He's not going to run like that for the rest of the year. But NASCAR just said, boys, there's a new sheriff here, and we're policing. So don't cheat. And they wanted to lay the law down. They want to make this thing like the IROC, I think is what they're trying to get to, where they're going to say all cars are going to be equal. I don't like that personally. I like the fact that mechanics could beat on a engine cylinder or something like that, and AJ Foyt could get out there with a hammer and get out of his car and beat the hell out of his Coyote engine and get back in and drive it to victory at the Indy 500. Those days are going away real quick. So, but this is the way NASCAR wants to run their show, and it is their show. So the message being sent this week is, for the last 5 races here, don't fuck with your cars, because we're going to rip them apart now, and we're going to find the 12 1,000ths of an inch of tape that you stuck somewhere that doesn't belong there, because we told you don't put it there. We're going to find if you file down the rear bumper like Keselowski's people did and say, you know, you changed the aero of this car by taking 12 1,000ths of carbon fiber off the back bumper. Don't you do that, you're penalized. And so it's just a message NASCAR wants to send. You play by their rules. They own the show, boys. They in the bottom line. That's what it comes to. I'm over and done with this one.
I think the thing that surprised me the most coming out this week is the fact that Kurt Busch was on a concussion test. So it looks like we're going to see another example of Ty Dillon, and much different, of course, for Ty Dillon, because I think we all thought he ran pretty well. I mean, he ended up finishing qualifications, but he goes from Pocono, which is a course that has, 3, to now going to the Indy Road Course. And I think it's a little bit more in his favor because most wants. So I think we'll see what Ty Dillon can do. And there's been some alteration to prevent cars from flying in the air or losing their front splitters. So we'll kind of get into that in a little bit. I'll talk about the last one. I think the sentiment around Kyle Busch is that he's just not going to be back. I think moving very much from, we expect him in the 18 next year, no doubt. NASCAR people that are in the sport are thinking that he could be going to the 41 spot. That does make sense because Gene Haas sponsors his own car, Tool and Die. And another thing that came out was Oracle sponsor that fell through because there was a technology sponsor that we heard of. We know Oracle has a ton of money. Steve, you know Oracle, California, as they are the Golden State Warriors sponsor for that facility. And they're also a sponsor for Red Bull and Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. But those really just caught my attention through this week. Obviously, a lot of it has been on what. So we'll just go ahead and move to the Indy Road Course. The main thing I want to ask you guys is expect from last year, because the Indy, you will not find a lot of people that were really excited about it, and I still think there's a lot of the run the rectangle. I'll just go ahead and ask both you guys the same question. Something that you like about the road course, or do you wish that NASCAR would switch back to the original configuration for Indianapolis?
I'll go first with that one. I don't like the course at Indy at all for NASCAR, and I know that for the longest time, people thought that Indy, the Brickyard 400, was a pretty boring race, and for most accounts it was a pretty boring race. But we've learned something with the next gen cars this year that long flat tracks like we watched at Pocono make for a pretty exciting race, and I would like to see them get the next gen car on the actual track, on the rectangle, not the oval, as everybody corrects me every time I talk about it. But I'd like to see them get it back on the track. I think that we have now been kind of inundated with way too many road courses on the NASCAR circuit. I mean, 1 or 2, maybe 3 a year is fine, but it seems like every third week now we're going to a road course, and really the road courses this year just turned out to be as boring as it can get. So I'm not real excited about this week's race at Indy on the road course. Hopefully I'm wrong. I like to see exciting races. So I don't know. We'll see here come Sunday, but I'm not excited to see this race really at all on another road course. Steve?
All right, I'm taking a lot of notes here. I'm being a lawyer right now. All right, touching on everything you said. Number one, I think that let me start with the easy part. I'd rather they move back to the rectangle or whatever you want to call it, the oval, go back to the speedway. I think you do the track justice by doing that. I think in this, to me, the Brickyard, and I know they've taken out all the bump stops, I believe, from last year, which was causing all the problems, where you actually saw cars airborne trying to get around, which I think this is like the Roval in Charlotte in the sense that this race, with the way it's configured, has a unique character about it that's unlike anything else, as the Roval does. The Roval has unique character. And I think that this course had unique character. First, it's at Indianapolis. It's at the Brickyard. But I don't think the cars of last year, were prepared to handle this track. Now, we haven't seen these cars on it. And these guys are all learning. Remember, this is the first time these next-gen cars are going to run on this track. So, yeah, there's going to be some rough edges until they figure it out. And good golly, Miss Molly, we haven't learned anything from last weekend. Engineers are starting to figure it out. And that's why you're getting 12 1,000ths of tape put on slots that we don't think are important. They're figuring shit out. And I think they're going to figure out this track. They're going to figure out the Roval when they go to it, and they're going to figure out all the other road courses. They're going to figure out the Brickyard. These cars are so durable and so changeable, you don't know what's going to happen or what they can and can't do to these cars. They don't know what they can and can't do. Obviously, they can't change anything that's a single source part. We know that now. But I like the race coming up. But I don't, everybody talks about Chase Elliott being the road course champion. I don't think he's any more of a favorite than anybody else because this track is so goofy the way it's laid out. Anybody can win. Whoever's got the biggest kahunas is going to try and win this race the way this track is laid out. So I love it. I'm excited about this weekend. What a great weekend in motorsports, Saturday and Sunday. But I think there is talk, Ryan, if I'm not true, I'll let you talk to it here, that they're talking about next year going back to the oval or the triangle or rectangle. Joe, go ahead, please.
No, I got a question because I'm trying to remember and I don't feel like looking it up. Do they go the opposite way, or is that Indy that does that? They
Indy
do go the opposite way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so they'll be turning into the pits to the left this weekend. Is that correct?
The pits will be on the right.
The pits will be on the right. Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, yeah, they're going in backwards. Backwards.
They're going.
You would call it.
They're going to say they're running the same course at the IndyCar race this year.
Yes,
correct?
the exact same. It's the exact same. Yeah.
Exact same course.
Okay. Well, that was boring, except for all the spin outs in the rain.
All right. So, Ryan,
Go
your thoughts on this? Go ahead. I mean, what do you think about this whole thing?
The thing that I'm looking to find out to see if course is the new super speedway in terms of do we have any idea who's the favorite and who's going to Chase Elliott being the road king, and he's done really well at road courses, but he's just not been able to put it in victory lane. Reddick, Daniel Suarez, and I believe somebody else this year also had their first win.
Yeah, Road America. Christopher Bell won, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's been a crapshoot going to make into victory lane, and as we know, there's only 2 spots left. So you really out of Kevin Harvick. I mean, he has to win. I think if forward to Richmond, I think that's a track that really suits him. But is there somebody who's going to run well and could disrupt everything like Chris Buescher or Michael McDowell? Both of those guys have run on these road courses. If one of those guys gets in, I mean, now you're talking Ryan and Kevin Harvick, and if not others, again, kicking this tire further down, guys, in the mid to late 20s in terms of points. So that's what I do wish. I wish there was something that they could do to Indy, because I don't good whether it's the road course race. I mean, it was cool last year because Chase Briscoe just said F it on the entire grass and wrecked Denny Hamlin, which was like some crazy batshit stuff that you've never seen before in your life. Outside of that and cars flying in the air, those weren't great products for NASCAR. But it just seems like these cars don't belong in the course, whether it's the rectangle or the road course. But a lot of drivers view this as they want to go back to the rectangle because they view it, the prestige of it. And before we get into our picks, I want to remind everybody again that the Grueling Truth in this show is your best bet to find an online casino or sports book that's right for you. Read them and weep. At least I'll do some weeping with our picks and our point total so far this year.
Well, Ryan, just one last thing on Indy. You remember this. The track was laid out for open-wheeled cars. It was not laid out for 5,000-pound, 4,000, 3,000-pound NASCARs, whatever these cars weigh. The Indy cars weigh about 1,800 pounds if they weigh that. And
that race is really boring too.
There are parts of it that aren't. It depends on who's running and who's running good that year. But yeah, any 500-mile race is pretty freaking boring. Okay, I don't think you can just blame Indy for that problem. Other than Talladega or Daytona, where a wreck can happen on any lap. Other than that, any 400 or 500-mile race has its. Let's go get a drumstick and a warm beer for $55 and come back. And now Indy won't even let you pay cash anymore. I read the other day that Indy is now a credit card or only place. So you can't even walk in with a wad of money and buy stuff. Not at the souvenir stand, no nothing. That pissed me off bigger than anything, and I'm not even going to the race. But the track was not laid out for these cars. It was the uniqueness of taking stock cars. I went to the first race in '94, August of '94, and sat there like other idiots, and it only got more boring. They finally moved it to the road course. So the track's not laid out. I think that the road course has been a fun addition. It's almost like it'd be worth it to see him run the road course on a Saturday or a Friday night, and then run the oval on a Sunday and put 2 races in right there at the same course. But to the point that was raised by Joe, I think it was, what road courses to me have done, because I agree with what Joe said, is they have taken away, like we all think Chase Elliott is road car king. He's not won one with this year, I do not believe. So he's not. And now it becomes a wild card race, much like Daytona. So now you look at the last 5 races now coming into it, you've got 2 road courses, Indy, Watkins Glen, and then you've got Daytona. 3 of the 5 races are wild card races. And then where else do we go, Ryan? Do we go back to Martinsville?
We go to Richmond.
Richmond.
I did
okay,
have
Richmond.
it pulled.
No, that's fine. Richmond, that's a short track. That's wild card. Because all it takes is a bump by Bubba Wallace to hit anything or anybody, and melee happens, and the leaders are all taken out. So now you're into the situation with points
And
being so
Michigan.
critical, Michigan probably is the most stoic race of all 5 of them left, where it's a 2-mile high bank track. Fastest car is going to probably win that race. You're going to see somebody leading by 4 or 5 seconds most of the race, and then you're going to move on. But we'll cover Michigan next week. Indy now is just a wild card. Denny Hamlin's running away with it last year, winning it. He gets tagged, he's out. Bingo, a new winner. And I think you're going to see that again this week. I don't expect Chase Elliott to win this race. I think people want to take him out and get him out. I think he's going to be in the lead, but I don't think he's a marked man if he's in the lead. Then, like I said, then you go on. So I like the road courses in that sense. I think if you move it back to the rectangle, as we're going to call it, you're going to get a traditional, historic, boring race is what you're going to get. And the attendance will be low. Television ratings will be down because it won't be a fun race to watch. And you'll move on, and you'll go on to the next race is what will happen. But we'll see. I like the road courses because now I think with this new car, boys, have at it. Let's go.
Well, okay. I'm going to get into our picks then. So I'm going to go over the picks from last week. I'll go over the picks from this week. Just real quick again, just to let you know, if you like any of our picks and you want to place a bet, head on over to betting.net. It is your best bet for finding an online casino or sportsbook that's right for you. Anyway, Ryan, we're going to start with you last week. Got to get this out. You picked the entire Joe Gibbs Racing team, which would have worked out really, really well for you. You would have came out of this week with 9 points. However, due to a piece of tape, you came out of this race with 3 points, which brings your yearly total to 68 points. I came out of this
Denny
week with
Hamlin at collars, but I think it really cost me more if you look at it from a totality. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I came out this week with 8 points, which puts my yearly total at 87. Steve took the week with 9 points, which puts his yearly total at 87. So we're in a dead heat. So we have 5 more races of the regular season. And I don't think collectively as a team we've come up with how many playoff points the winner of the regular season in our point standing will get. But at the beginning of the playoffs, we will start over with our picks, and the winner will get a predetermined amount of bonus points. So we're going to try to do it just like they do racing somewhat, try to keep it on that page. So as of right now for the regular season, Ryan's probably out of it. He is the Kevin Harvick right now going into the last 5 races. Steve and I are on the cut line. So it's getting intense. But this week, Steve, since you have your choice to go first or pick the person who.
Yes, I do. I'm going with who I think is going to run away with the damn thing, Chase Elliott. I think he's going to win by 3 laps. Maybe 4. Who knows? And they aren't going to find any dadgum tape on his damn car either. Because tape on the car is cheating. Call it whatever you want to call it. Color it with any kind of decal you want to put over it. It's still freaking cheating.
Yeah, they're going to find an altered suspension. Who's your next pick?
Yeah. I think Ryan Chastain. Ross Chastain. I was thinking of Ryan because I know Ryan, right now Ryan hates me. He cannot stand me.
You don't move me enough to break me, Steve.
That makes me feel good. That I don't want to break you. I don't want to move you. I'm just having fun with you. And okay, so I got Ross Chastain. I think he's a road course demon. I can't leave Kyle Larson out of this mix. So I got Kyle. I've got to go with last year's winner. I got to go with Christopher Bell. I think he's become a road course demon. And I think the most desperate driver with a chance to make something happen is Ryan Blaney if Penske and him can get their acts together. So I got Penske, I got Blaney, Bell, Larson, Chastain, and Elliott.
Okay. Ryan, would you like to go next or you want me to go?
Sure, I'll go. Well, at road courses so far this year, one of them actually got me 5 points without winning, so I'm just going to keep going to that well. Hendrick, Michael McDowell had a top 5 finish, also a top 10 finish at the last road course, going with him, shown an amazing amount of speed at the road courses so far. I believe he's got 2 top 7 finishes in Road America, so I got him. And then 2 guys that typically do well. One was winning the race, and if he didn't get taken out by Chase Briscoe, trying to skip like 3 different turns. So, and then last but not least, I have Chase Elliott to finish off my 5, because until the end of the road course, he's going to be in my picks.
All right. Run through them just real quick. Go through them again.
I know. You got to go through mine again because they're so bad. Michael McDowell, Chris Buescher, and Austin Cindric. Final answer.
Okay. All right. Well, this week I'm going to not think outside the box, and I'm going to go with Kyle Larson, Martin Truex, Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman. Now, however, I'm going to throw this out there. Steve, Ryan, I am going to say that Ty Gibbs finishes in the top 10 this week. I'm not going to take him as a pick, but I'm going to say that young man gets a top 10 finish this week.
He's the real deal.
Silver spoon.
Yeah, he's the real deal. He can race. He can drive.
So those are my picks. So we'll see how they go.
All right. Well, do it for this Wednesday episode. There's a very high possibility that I will be at Sunday Forum. We'll probably keep the same time, about 10 o'clock, for the post-race show. And if anything, you want a first-hand experience on how Sunday goes, as long as all goes well on my side, if you're not there, and then these guys can tell you what happens on the tube, because they'll see way more than I will if I end up going. This show and every show that we do here, the NASCAR shows, are brought to you by betting.us. Bet to find an online casino or sports book that's right for you. Joe Spilman, Steve Risley, I am tape cost how much? This.
Have a good night, guys.